Hello everyone, we are back with a new channel format and an updated video layout. We will try to give more information and documents in our wrestling videos furthermore. We have deemed such a change appropriate both to make you love the wrestling and introduce the wrestlers. In the new video layout, we will often use the method to explain the moves that made one of the athletes win and to comment more on wrestling matches and the wrestlers. Thus, we will try to make you love the wrestling by adding more original interpretation and educational value to wrestling matches. In this video, we are going to the 1994 World Wrestling Championship. Two famous champions met in the Greco-Roman and 130 kg final of the organization held in Tامپره, Finland. Those who watched the wrestling final of the famous Russian wrestler Alexander Károlyin and Cuban Hector Million witnessed unforgettable moments. At that time, wrestling matches were held in a single 5-minute circuit. In the first minute of the final match, the two wrestlers tried to solve each other's imitations and impose their power superiority. For wrestlers who are both Olympic champions, this can be considered quite normal. A simple mistake can have irreversible consequences for both wrestlers. After the first minute of wrestling was over, the first passively was given to the Cuban wrestlers by the referee. Alexander Károlyin, who started wrestling in the parterre position, got 2 points with his action against his opponent. Now, let's look at the slow motion of that moment. Even if the Russian wrestler won 2 points with his gut wrench move, the Cuban wrestler was very lucky in this position. Information note: during his career, Alexander Károlyin won 3 times Olympic, 9 times World and 12 times European champions. After receiving the first point in the parterre position, Károlyin got very close to 5 points with the movement of crotch lift stack. When the Cuban wrestler used his feet, the referee warned him this time. After a warning from the Cuban wrestler, Károlyin gained 2 more points and the score was 4-1. Using all his strength in the parterre position, Károlyin made a gut wrench move again and earned 2 more points, making the score 6-1. Now, let's look at the slow motion of that moment. Károlyin, who was constantly trying to crush his opponent with his weight in the parterre position and was looking for a technique to gain points, was given 2 more points by the referee and the score was 8-all. Károlyin really made a good use of these 2 parterre positions. He constantly crushed the Cuban wrestler with his weight and tried him constantly. Information note: Alexander Károlyin played 889 matches during his professional wrestling career and only lost 2 of them. With 1.5 minutes left before the end of the wrestling, this time passively was given to Károlyin. The wrestling, which started in the parterre position, in my opinion, was the closest point-to-point for the Cuban wrestler. The Cuban wrestler, who tried to score in the sideboard position for about 30 seconds, did not succeed in this. Even Károlyin's facial expression and smile showed how difficult it was to score a point from him. As we entered the last minute of the final match, signs of the fatigue began to appear the Cuban wrestler. Both Károlyin's superior fitness and the fact that the Cuban wrestler was crushed by Károlyin's weight throughout the match made him very tired. Information note: Alexander Károlyin started to engage in politics after quitting wrestling. He was elected as a deputy of the Russian National Assembly. With 53 seconds left, the Cuban wrestler could not bear to the fatigue and pain any longer and fell to the ground. Even if the Cuban wrestler wanted to start wrestling again, this time the referee of the match did not allow it. Because indeed the Cuban was very tired and the wrestling could have caused different injuries. The most important factor that made Károlyin win the match is that he is really strong wrestler. He is a great condition thanks to this training, much heavier than most wrestlers. In addition, despite his tall height and 130 kilos, Károlin is a very flexible athlete. In my opinion, even getting the Cuban wrestler a point from Károlin in this final match is a great success. It should not be forgotten that the wrestlers who earned points from Károlin at that time rejoiced as if they had won the match.